It is Wednesday, so YieldMax announced their Group 2 ETF amounts. I do have these uploaded to the spreadsheet here to trace how they're doing from a percent return basis. The recent dividend announced just now is listed in the recent dividend column and will be paid, of course, until Friday. That said, if we do, excuse me, let me grab a drink. If we do filter based on percent return, you can see we got some nice items here. Maybe if I zoom out a bit, we'll get a little bit, or I don't know, probably easier to see if I keep it zoomed in. But the top five: AMD, Coney, Snowy, Morrow, Murney. Murney's funny one, only $1.61, but paying a 3-cent dividend. So buck or a 1.96% return on that one. It hasn't been the best, but a $1.61, and really any distribution you get on Murney is going to be somewhat significant. But that said, NVDY comes in strong again, 0.23%. It was pretty good last week as well, with a 2.25% return. That's not annualized. It's not quarterly. That's not monthly. That's weekly. So 2.25%. for the week, since it's only trading at $10.31. But those are your top. You also got a Hui just right outside there. Really, I mean, if you look at these last week, it seemed like 2% was the top notch they're paying on a weekly basis since they've gone to this weekly format. AMDY and Coney coming above that, but a lot of things falling just under that. So anything kind of over that 1.9 monthly, or if you times that by 4, you're again like 8, or roughly 8 to 9% on some of these per month, if you want to relate it back to when they were paying monthly. If you look at some of the other ones, you can see some of the top ones here. And then if we go to the bottom ones, Berkshire, MSFO, Disney, XOMO, JPMO, for the most part, some pretty low volatility stocks. Still trading, looks like Berkshire was the lowest at 0.33% for the week. But I suppose any of them under 1, that'd be a roughly like a 4% annual or monthly return. So you got GUI, Apple. GUI was pretty good last week, but it's back down to like 14 cents again. You got Apple, TSMY, which I think TSMY was a pretty good one last week. So there is some volatility to these. Just to show you, I mean, if we go to TSMY, if we go to the individual stock page for this one, and while I'm here, I just want to note the ones that I want to take a deeper look at are NVDY. Of course, that one's in the news because NVIDIA just went over $5 trillion in market cap with the announcement that potentially NVIDIA will get additional sales from China. Some sort of agreement can be made with Trump and Xi in their discussions currently. So that's, of course, pushing the stock higher. $5 trillion is really something. I know when I was in school, I believe I had my accounting professor told me that 500 billion was the limit that stocks would get up to before they experienced drastic resistance. And she named off all these companies that hit the $500 billion range and fell following that. Then when it kind of in her face, Apple kind of became the first $1 trillion market cap company. Now we got tons of companies over $1 trillion, and we have companies now over $5 trillion. So of course, I suppose people could point to inflation and the value of the dollars and what it once was. But yeah, those market cap barriers that seem to be here in the past are no longer a thing, as you can see from NVIDIA. But the TSMY, so this is what I was looking at here. I should probably have at an average line. That said, it's only these last 3 here lately that have been weekly. You can see it was 33 cents last week and only down to 15 cents this week. So almost half the value. The one I said was looking pretty good. And of course, I've got a sheet for all of these. Although at times it takes a while to find them now. Maybe I'll think of a better way to sort them out. But I guess looking at GUI here quick, its distribution history, you can see lately it was pretty good last week at 21 cents almost, down a little bit now to about 14 cents. And here we go, AMDY. This one's been pretty good lately from a percentage basis. And you can see it was good last week at 19 cents. It's only better at 23 cents. So this has been the one that's been paying out from a distribution perspective. And it's been doing well lately, really ever since May. I mean, this thing's been, from about 21 all the way up to about 28 in terms of total return. But that said, the stock of the day, of course, is NVIDIA. And I guess the thing nice about these things reporting every week is that you can cover whatever one you want that's in the news because they're all giving their distributions on a weekly basis. So NVDY, the distribution is a little better than it was. It was right around like 10, 12 cents up to 18 cents. I would hopefully think it's better than 10 or 12 cents going forward. That said, if we look at the in-depth here, and I just want to, just as a note, so NVIDIA, as I'm speaking, is up about 3%, about 207 a share. That said, over the last 5 days, it's up about like 15%. It's gone from kind of in the 180 range all the way up to 207. The reason I point that out is this shows you the power of the credit spread approach. So you saw, and I think NVIDIA, so if you look at their previous position iterations, I think this is yesterday, they had calls bought and sold that expired Friday. You see they had them sold at the 185 to 190, and they had them bought from 192 to 197.50. Thankfully, they had some bought here because when it soared yesterday, we lost, some of the gaps between these. We didn't capture the upside. But once it passed 197.50, we're basically capturing all the upside. And you can see even today, when NVIDIA is up 3.12%, NVDY is up 2.56%. So it's almost capturing that game, or in other words, not being capped by a call, it's being sold. Why is that? Well, if we go to the positioning here, so you can see this was yesterday, and they repositioned again. Once again, 10/31/2025 strike price. But now we got calls sold at 187.50 and 200, whereas previously they were at 185 and 190. So they kind of shifted those up. But then we also shifted up the calls we bought 195 and 207.50. But so this line is kind of where it was this morning. It's fell a little bit since then. We're at the 206, almost 207. So these calls are in the money. These ones are almost in the money. I suppose we got a couple of days left, so we'll see if there any guidance is provided. But that's why I always like the credit spread approach, because when the stock runs, I guess you don't get as much premium week to week, but you don't lose out on that massive upside in a stock, especially like NVIDIA. You are underperforming a little bit. I mean, 0.6 percentage points at the moment, but it's good to get this 2.3% return from having the credit spreads that are bought. You can see from a synthetic usage perspective, for every call they have sold, they do have insurance via credit spread, so 100% insurance. And where that's really nice is, here we go, it's our synthetic value. Look at that thing. It's always all the way up to $2.92 per share in synthetic value. So that of course, our cash value is at $14.25, but the ETF price is on the way up. It's at $17.20 right now. Of course, this was earlier captured. It was at $16.82, so that will even go up further. But yeah, glad that they're employing the credit spread approach with NVIDIA. I wish they would have even not touched their previous position. They just captured all the upside today. It looks like they tried to reposition. Why exactly? Maybe to try to pull out some premium. But they just would have left it as is. We would have been good for the week. We would have captured all the upside for today as well. That said, looking at NVIDIA from a fund perspective, we are on the way up in terms of market cap. Most of this is, I think, from the actual underlying equity going up. But so they paid today, and NVIDIA paid like an 18-cent distribution. So they announced today, looks like their cash position went down almost by 18 cents, although I don't think the ex-dividend date is until tomorrow. So I think what they did is they used some cash to, as I showed previously in their positioning, to reposition their contracts they had sold. So that cost them about 19 cents to do that per share. But that said, the synthetic, I mean, if you look at that, that's gone from I guess on the 22nd or the 24th, it was about $1.31. Now we're all the way up to $2.92. I think it's even higher than that. We'll refresh this tomorrow to capture today's trading, of course. But when you get that synthetic and it's starting to get above 2, I guess the only thing I'd like to note is they're probably gonna kind of cash in that synthetic. Or in other words, if you look at their positioning right now, they got synthetics at 165 and 170 for NVIDIA, the underlying equity. You see they're at these like red lines. Well, NVIDIA's at 206.50 right now. So there's quite a bit of gap between where the share price is, where the synthetic is. If we move the synthetic strikes up around 205 or even 210 or 200, by doing this, we're going to take in a bunch of cash. And with that, you'll see the cash position have a nice upward jump. And I guess it's up to the YieldMax team at that point. But if they take some of that cash and pay it out in the distribution next week or the week after that, whenever they decide to do it, there could be a week coming up where NVDY pays a pretty substantial distribution. So I guess that's what I would be on the lookout for. But yeah, overall, NVDY, pretty good. I was thinking their synthetic was getting pretty good last time I reviewed this one, but it's looking even better today. Yeah, I guess overall, going back to the summary spreadsheet, percentage return, very good for a lot of these. I'll just see if any other ones fill out. I don't see anything else. Everything looks pretty standard. Misty again was about at 20 cents, 1.66% return on the week. That's all the way down to $11.60 though. So didn't think I'd see that, but it's coming down, but the distribution is still staying decent. AMZY actually, in my opinion, came in pretty good at 20 cents or 1.39%. That's better than it has been. And I think Tesla looks a little light to me at 11 cents or only 1.3%. But yeah, I guess let me know what you think. If any of these look out of, or any of these performing better or worse than, I guess, where you would see them. But those were the group 2. Group 1, of course, the way I got this set up is these don't add in until the actual ex-dividend date. So I believe that would be tonight, payout tomorrow. But yeah, they announced these yesterday. I think Ulti was under 8. I believe Ulti was under 8 cents. But we'll track these going up further. In terms of looking at the last week's distributions, I guess you can see, distribution or on a percent basis, Ulti was the best, then SLTY, LFGY, PIVI, YMAG, YMAX. Let me just jump to make sure those might be updated. Let me just check. So they announced Chippy was at 46 cents. So this is clearly last week's because it was 57.9. So Chippy the next distribution is only 46 cents. And Ulti is at 8.48 cents. So that would probably go down to 8 cents. So these will all probably update tomorrow when it hits ex-dividend, which means that you as a shareholder actually had the right to the distribution, or even if you still sell the stock past ex-dividend day, you still get the distribution. But those were decent. We'll take another look at those tomorrow. But yeah, and then just as a note, I do also have the Roundhill, or some of the Roundhill funds. They got a decent number of funds. I guess I got a few of the single stock and some of the like multi-stock or Bitcoin, Ether in here. I think what is there, probably about 10 to 15 that I have in here. We'll start tracking those a little bit more in depth going in the future. But I guess the news for today is NVDY looking strong from both the payout perspective as well as the underlying equity perspective. Thanks.